everybody, thank you for tuning into this video. Lorien here, and I bring you today a little bit of something different. So I know a lot of you ask about my tarot decks and generally some interesting questions about them. I wanted, basically for quite a while now, to do a little bit of tarot reviews. I've worked with a lot of my cards for, these have been years. The Gilded Tarot has been absolutely years that I've been working with them. But I just thought, from somebody's point of view who has actually worked with them for quite a long time, all the decks, just to get a bit of their personality and see which kind of deck is the best for you, really, because a lot of you do ask questions about them, so here they are. Now, as most of you may already know, but for those of you who are just coming on here for the tarot decks, this is the Gilded Tarot. This is, I think it's by Sierra Marchetti, I think so. Anyway, this is a beautiful deck. It's really, really strong, and I have used it since my mother got it for me as a Christmas present a few years ago, or several years ago. I just don't like feeling old. So this is basically what I learned with, and it was tarot for beginners. It was in one of those packs that was really good. I think it was basically when I got the tarot book and I really wanted to learn more, and it is in the basic Rider-Waite tarot system, so you don't have to learn anything new. It's basically the same system as always. So let me have a look. So this, it's a beautiful backing. It's not the best cardstock, I have to say. It's just kind of little thick cardboard here. But as you can see, it's kind of like digital art with a little bit of, medieval vibe from it. And it's got all this kind of photogenic stuff on here. This is actually one of my favourite cards, so I'm glad it came up as that one. And it's just kind of, as you can see, a little bit of variant on the traditional Rider-Waite. Now, the guidebook that came with this, pretty simple, and it focuses on positive of the cards, and especially with the Devil card, that is kind of represented by the pagan god Pan, so you get a little bit of explanation about that pagan god as well. But I basically wanted, in this tarot review, some of you may have seen all these cards already, so I'm not going to focus too much on that, but what I wanted to kind of do is focus on the personality, what it's best for, what my reactions have been when I've read for clients with this, and I have read for clients a lot with this deck. Basically, it's just to give you a little bit of an overview as to how they work with me and my relationship with the cards. So, look at that, we start with a 4. So, as you can see, they are really, really nice. I'm a very visual reader, and I go based on my intuition more often than not, really. I know the basic information and the basic reasoning behind the tarot. I've done courses on them, but I always go based on what the individual image speaks to me and how it tells me, or what it tells me. And to be honest, this is a very devoted deck to the Rider-Waite system. It is very similar to it, but I still get different messages from these than I would on the Rider-Waite. And at first I didn't actually like the Rider-Waite. I didn't like the visuals, but until recently I loved the Rider-Waite. I worked with it all the time. It's actually upstairs now, but I got really into the Rider-Waite, and I gave these a rest for about 6 months, and the Rider-Waite answered all the questions. Now these, they have a little bit of a quirky personality, I have to say. So for instance, if you were trying to get a question out of them and they basically gave it through to you, sometimes you might go, well, I don't understand that, and you'd shuffle the cards again, or this is what I used to do, shuffle the cards again, and they come out probably with the same cards, and they go, look, you didn't look the first time. So that's kind of what the personality is. But I do agree with the actual guidebook, they are more of a silver lining cards. I mean, they don't hunker down with desperate images all the time. They're very, very stable, and I do get different things from them every single time. I do get different messages from them. And they are really good for that. They know me, they know what I need to know, but sometimes they like to be cagey. They do like to put hidden meanings in the cards. So for instance, if you're asking about a love situation, they'll bring up a Pentacles card or something like that, or a card that I've always struggled to learn about, You know, I have card blindness sometimes, and they go, here you are, looking deeper into the situation. So it's something like that. They do like to test you and bring about the best in you, as well as kind of be very simplistic and give you the information that you need. Now, some of you may be going, tarot cards, tarot decks with a personality? Yes. Each deck has an energy, a unique energy to it. They have their preferred method, I think, as well. And this has been my kind of, I'm trying to think of it, experimental deck. I try new spreads with this one, simply because I know it and I know how it reads. And sometimes I overturn cards from this and I just have to laugh, because it's like it's read my mind and it gives me exactly what I need for the next question that the client's asking me, even if they haven't actually asked it yet. So this is basically, and look at this card, isn't she beautiful? Isn't she gorgeous? And it's basically all to do with that, and that's another of my favourite ones, just because I love seeing the Ace of Pentacles. And you get a lot of information from it. I mean, you've got the weasel down there, you know, you can read into that. And it is basically one of the most easiest things I would recommend you look into when you're learning tarot, or you want to learn tarot. So I've got a question here. I've basically accumulated some general questions that people ask about tarot decks. What season is this deck best for? Well, to be honest, it's best for any season. Now, some decks, you know, they're for winter feel and they're better for autumn, winter. Some decks just have a beautiful summer feel about them. Some are only for specific questions like love or something like that. They prefer that. But this is anytime, anywhere. Travel with you. They don't mind. They do get tired though, I have to say. Maybe won't do it if you just do one reading a week, but I use these pretty much every day. So sometimes I do have to give them a really long rest and put them in a tarot bag and put them away, just because they need to recover. So the questions that they work best at, I think any questions. They're not particularly fond of love questions, I have to say, although they will focus on that. This is the kind of the relationship I have with them. I have another deck mainly for love questions that come through, but they're very honest and they tell you basically what you need to know rather than what you want to know, which any tarot reader, any tarot deck should do. I think if you're more career orientated or self-belief or wanting to work on yourself, this is a really good deck to use. This is a good all-rounder though, and it just kind of gives you a good feeling when you're using it. I mean, I should say that on the Three of Swords, but it does give you a really good sense of what they do. Now, the level that they work best for, the reason I originally decided to give these a rest was because I thought, I've outgrown this now. I have completely outgrown this deck. They are too simple images. They don't give me as much inner knowledge that I want to go into anymore, and I put them aside. But then I realized they were just tired. It wasn't me not being able to read it wasn't that. And that was another learning curve as a reader. But this was something, basically, the images were fine. It was just me and the cards disconnecting. It's because they were tired. I couldn't get what I needed from them, and I basically focused on Rider-Waite, which is even more simplistic than these. But they had a fresh energy because it hadn't been used so much. But these are basically the perfect kind of, as well as the guidebook, for new beginners or people who want to get back into tarot but don't know which way to do it or how to do it. And especially this strength card, I love this one. I mean, yeah, some of the poses look a bit weird, but you know, what can you expect from a basic deck? I mean, it's still beautiful, and I think some of them, I have different cards in different decks which I just have blindness on. For instance, in this one, I don't really get judgment, but in Rider-Waite I understand it. Just kind of like the images sometimes don't ring true for me. But if you are just getting into basic tarot, you know, you just want to go into some things, that's perfect, that's really good. Short readings or long readings was another question that people asked, and basically these can work for either or. These correctly predicted for me. I'm just going to tell you a little story. You may have heard about Brexit. Okay, and the day before the vote, I gave these to my mother and I said, shuffle them and ask them the question. And she was like, are we going to be leaving the EU? Is Britain going to be leaving? Can you give me some information? Before she put the first card down, I said the death card. is going to come through here. And the first card she pulled out was the Death card. And that is kind of testament to the psychic connection and the energy connection that I have with these cards. And then she built out the other few cards, and it was about the politicians, and basically it predicted that we would leave the EU, and we did. So this is very good. This is one of the kind of paramount cards here, and sometimes you bring things up and it says, when I first was for instance reading the cards, I doubted what they were showing me, and I doubted my interpretation of them actually. So for instance, if this card came up and the question was not about a person or something like that, or a romantic interest, but still that was there, and I was thinking, there's a water sign male here though, so you know, blah blah blah. The person on the phone or the person you know, over the live chat or something would say, oh, by the way, what about my Pisces husband? And I'd be like, oh, I should have mentioned that to them because I wanted to impress them. You know what I mean? And you know, the thing is, trust the cards, trust the information the cards are bringing forwards. Even if the person on the other end of the phone or the client in front of you goes, well, I don't understand that. There's a judgment card. Don't know what it means. Even now I'm not getting anything from that one, but it's not anything to do with the group. Even if the person in front of you goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. These cards, or any deck really, maybe, but especially with these, seem to come through telling you, actually, it's going to happen, so just watch out for it. Trust the cards, trust the information. Don't second guess yourself, and don't second guess what these are telling you. Again, see, this can be interpreted in loads of different ways. I've had this meaning 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 stages of the moon, everything. It just goes with you, with your psychic intuition. You pick up something new every single time. So they can work for just a 1-card reading. But sometimes you may have to look deeper into the meaning of that card. But they know what they're doing. Any tarot deck knows. But again, this is a great card to, a great deck, sorry, to come through and give you all the information that you need. And it's a little bit jazzier than Rider-Waite. For those of you who don't really like the symbolism or the kind of stick figures sometimes of the Rider-Waite, it's kind of a lot easier for you maybe to understand for this way. But that's it as far as I can think of what to say about this deck. We have quite a personal relationship. It doesn't mind if I hand it over to my mother to for her to kind of experiment, because she's learning as well. She's much more psychic than I am. Mind you, she's got many more years than I have of doing things, but she hasn't really used any cards to do that in her psychic ability. So she kind of connects really well with this. We have the similar energy, so she's fine. But it's basically, I think, one of those things where you have to form a relationship with your tarot deck. And this is a great basic one. It is your friend. It will never go out of style. You may feel disconnected with it, but it's just telling you that it needs to rest. And I think the images are perfect. I was so happy with it when I got it. I had a thrill of energy that came through me when I first held this deck. So this is incredibly personal to me, this deck, and it will always be with me. Yeah, it's a bit flimsy, and as you can see, the edges are just, they used to be black and now they're just kind of cardboard, but that's not me taking away from the energy that this deck has. It's a really, really good deck. I really enjoy working with it, and I would hope that you lot do too if you decide to go out and get this. It's reasonably priced. The guidebook's great. It has a few, I don't have it on me, I don't know where it's gone actually. That's another thing. They go missing. They go on walkabout when they don't want to be used. So mind that. Especially the guidebook. If you don't need it, you won't find it. Basically, if you go, oh, I'll just check this meaning. It goes, no, you should know better. you know I'm hiding. So it does have a very strong personality. It's a very subtle personality that will come through. But again, I feel this is really strong start for people who may not really, or maybe a little bit intimidated by learning tarot. It's absolutely fine. It's not got all this information about it. It's just the basic stuff, but it has a lot of depth that you kind of skim the surface of and then plunge in over time, over the years. And I do really love this deck. I'm definitely going to continue using it. And yeah, I think the main thing to do is work with your decks. Get to know them. Do whatever exercises that you feel you need to do. But for me, I just love these decks, and this has come up a lot, so you know, maybe if your family are having some arguments, you know, it'll tell you with that card. But it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. It's really cool. I recommend anybody to have it in their collection, and also I feel that it would be kind of good for younger beginners, maybe, sorry, in their teens or something like that. It does have a little bit of nudity in it somewhere, I think, as far as I can remember, maybe not all of it, but it's definitely something that I would recommend people to start with, or just somebody if they're kind of intermediate, or just coming out of their first deck. Maybe if you want something different, you can use these are not going to take a blind leap of faith into another direction. It's a nice card. I hope that helps anyway. That is my review of the tarot energy. If you do have any more questions about what they are like, I've got years of experience with them, so please do let me know. But it's just kind of telling you from the point of view as a reader, what they do and how they are to read with. So I hope that helped anyway. Let me know, as always, how you're doing and if you have any questions, and I look forward to reading from you soon. Take care.